Good afternoon to all industry colleagues and members of our council. I am Arup, and on behalf of the entire TERI team, I welcome you all to today's webinar on how cool are green buildings. As you would be aware, our council is a group of Indian business leaders working on a shared commitment to mainstream sustainability in business strategies and practices. We at TERI have set up this council to recognize and promote sustainability leadership practices. Our Council for Business Sustainability serves as the interface for our research work to be connected to the corporate world. We are delighted to host a series of hot leadership webinars that will discuss and deliberate emerging trends on sustainability which Indian companies and businesses should be cognizant about. The webinar shall last for 60 minutes. The webinar is an interactive session, and all of you would have an opportunity to pose questions and queries to our speakers during the course of the webinar. You can type your questions in the dialog box available on the right-hand side bottom corner of your screen. The speaker will answer your questions by turn. In case you are unable to hear us or view the display, please contact our colleagues. The mobile numbers are available on the screen. It's an opportune time for us to talk about choices that we will make for tomorrow. Only 2 days ago, on Monday, 8th of October, the IPCC special report was unveiled in South Korea. The report highlights different mitigation pathways that are in line with meeting the 1.5 degree goal. And they all assume substantial demand side mitigation and behavioral and lifestyle changes to be able to limit the warming to 1.5 degree centigrade. Given India's commitments under the Paris Agreement and the Kigali Agreement, we see the surge in the use of HVAC systems in India is being coupled with the potential to embed energy efficiency features and use of cost-effective low-GWP refrigerants. The National Building Code has requirements on the use of zero-ODP and low-GWP refrigerants. In the green building space, this assumes immense importance. Today's webinar aims to focus on this transition and an attempt to capture the leadership initiatives among Indian businesses. The key points for discussion would be A. Understanding legislation and the choice of the right refrigerants. B. Rethinking equipment design, installation, and operation for greater efficiency and sustainability. And C. Lessons learned on what has worked and what does not. We have with us today an unique combination and diverse set of speakers representing 3 innovation organizations: Delhi International Airport, GMR Group, Ingersoll Brand, and Government of India's Green Rating Scheme, GRIHA. I'm happy to welcome our first speaker, Mr. Akash D. Akash is an architect by profession in sustainable urban design and creative urban spaces from Glasgow University. He has been working as a program manager with the TERI Council since September 2011. During his service with the TERI Council, he has presented the GRIHA case at UNFCCC Bond on recognition of GRIHA as India's own rating system in Government of India's nationally determined contributions. He has worked extensively in implementing GRIHA through various site visits conducted all over the country. He has also initiated the GRIHA Student Engagement Program and conducted trainings for various government and private sector institutes. He has many published articles both in print and online media covering various sustainability aspects across the city level issues. He has varied experience in project designing and has worked on many projects across urban, architectural, interior, landscaping, designing, etc. May I invite Mr. Akash Deep to provide his perspectives on the topic. Over to Mr. Akash.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks to Mr. Arup for inviting us for this interactive webinar between various agencies across the industry. And interestingly, to start with, I'll take it on a lighter note, which is a very interesting topic: how cool are green buildings? Now, as we speak, the interesting word "cool" has two different meanings if you talk about the building sector. One is obviously the happening thing across the industry, and also when you talk about green buildings, it has a totally different meaning. Now, to understand the basic meaning of this term or this phrase, I went to the most known people on the world, that is are Google and Wikipedia. So I asked them, what is cool and how do we measure it? Now, interestingly, the answers which I thought was very interesting, and what it said was coolness is an aesthetics of attitude, behavior, comportment, appearance, and style, which is generally admired. And there's a tool to measure this coolness when you take about any of the building industries or any of the products which you are using. It is an inner cool and outer cool. How do we measure inner coolness? It's desirability and usability. So basically how that product is desired by someone and the usability to it. And outer cool is more of aesthetics behavior in it and hedonic quality. How innovative that product is, how good it is used. Now, interestingly, when you add buildings in this search, that is with cool buildings, Google gives you a very varied terms to look around, and those are iconic, creative, inspiring, beautiful, famous, and even ridiculous. So anything varying from iconic to ridiculous can be cool, but the moment you add green buildings, all this disappears, and what you get is cool roof, thermal comfort, cutting edge, and later down the page you have most sustainable. So thank God sustainability is there with the green building of coolness. But why can't our general building be green as well as cool? That's the basic question. Why there has to be an extra effort to make these buildings? So I asked Google, how do I measure this coolness in a building? And there was a big silence and question mark. So what is the current mindset? What is the issue which people are having in implementing these green buildings in our industry? So there's a mindset that green buildings are costly, it requires an extra effort. So what green buildings currently do not have is, they are not iconic, they are not inspiring, they are not beautiful, not famous or creative, but they are sustainable in nature. Now, is it possible that can our green buildings or can our building sector be both sustainable as well as iconic, creative, beautiful, and inspiring? So the answer is yes. The only thing which we need to change is our way of thinking, our way of working in the current industry. The effort which we given, it is not an extra effort, it is the right effort which is required to make our current building sustainable. It's not how much work you do, but what is the quality of work which you are doing. So to understand that, let's move further. In general, take any industry across our working sector, what happens is we have a current working process. When you are given a task, what we go is, obviously, when I was given this type of presentation, I also did the same thing. I went to Google, I searched what is cool buildings, what is green buildings, and then the best use words on your keyboard, that's Control C, Control V, work done. That's our basic ethics of work, which has evolved from the previous years. Now, this work ethics is not sustainable and neither cool, as simple as that. So we need to change our working processes to make our buildings sustainable as well as it is more accepted into the building industry. To give a very basic example, there are these 4 images of buildings from across the world, and interestingly, these buildings look all alike. Doesn't matter where they are. Can anybody guess these buildings where they are located? Interestingly, the top 2 are Indian buildings, and the bottom 2 are located in USA. With these various control C, control V things which we have in designing and manufacturing products. We have stopped applying our minds of actually thinking what we are moving ahead to basically. So what do we need? The first thing which sustainability starts at the very basic level. Why do we need buildings? So why do we need buildings? We need buildings. Basically, our requirement is to protect us from climate. That's the thumb rule by any one of us make these buildings and to provide comfort. If I ask anyone what is their comfort requirements, there are basically when you design a building, the building design looks at 4 comfort requirements: thermal comfort, visual comfort, acoustical comfort, and the modern day times problem, that is your indoor air quality. Your building serves as a protection from all these sources. That's the only use a building is being created, as simple as that. Now, if your building can give you all of this, it is sustainable, it is green, and it is cool, obviously. Now, if we see the current scenario, this is what we make. It neither has visual comfort, it nor has thermal comfort, and let alone acoustical and air quality measures within the building. You need to have high-end systems, you need to install high-end glasses, to first cut down the heat which is coming in, and finally we end up putting curtain lines and increasing the lighting load and air conditioning load. So this does not sound to be sensible, and this does not sound to be sustainable as well. So if we see the current building cost timing, if I divide your building process, it starts with design process. You have the construction, operation, and maintenance. Now, marketing and design. Now, this arrow shows how much cost and time you invest in each of these activities. Now, interestingly, the design part, which requires the maximum amount of time, we give it the least importance. It requires much more thoughtfulness. It requires much more a systematic approach of decision making. But at the end of the day, what it results in an overarching expenditure in your construction, operation, and maintenance. So it requires more at each level, but gives you less in each level. It's neither comfortable, it's not usable, it's not aesthetically pleasing. However, the sustainable buildings, if you talk about these buildings, what you can change is it requires more systematic approach at your design and marketing approach. Obviously, you will have a resultant cost saving at the construction, operation, and maintenance phase, which says that green building cannot be costly. And that is the basic idea, which a misconception which people have, that if you go for green building, I have to invest 1 to 5% extra cost. However, what we beg to differ is if you take right choices at right time, your building cannot be costly at all, not even the initial capex which we estimate. So we take some examples. For example, we have 2 basic commodities which you use in building. You have energy and you have water. Now, when we talk about energy, there's a feeling that if any of the building is consuming renewable energy, it's green, but that doesn't make it sustainable. What makes it sustainable is, first we try to reduce our demand, then we try to make sure the systems which we are using are efficient, and then whatever your reduced demands are, that we mitigate through renewable energy. So what this helps is basically, if I take care of my first step, initial step at the design stage, the first passive designing or the building designing, it does not require any major cost. It is zero cost. It is just design interface. Now, these designing features, what helps is to reduce your cost. For example, if we have the costliest material which we use in your building is glass. Now, glass which we have, it has very many usage across the building sector. But if I ask a very basic question, why we put a window in a building? Now, that's the very basic common sense of what building windows work for or fenestration work for. And the answer is it's either daylight or cross ventilation. Or if you add architectural perspective into it, it's connectivity. Now, the current buildings which you make, it's majorly air conditioned, so there's no cross ventilation. The other thing which remains is daylighting. If you look around to the various buildings which you have in the industry, the amount of glass which we are end up using in the building facade, it's there. It has reduced your heat gain. Yes, I will use an artificial glass. I reduce my heat gain, but the window daylight. What the daylight happens is it has two basic components: the glare part and the usable daylight. Now, the daylight which comes from the glass, excess amount of glass, it has glare, and we end up putting up curtains and switching our lights on. Now, this does not make sense. First, invest in high efficient glass, then put my curtains and blinds, then switch on the lights, and then what happens with the glass is the heat which is there outside is it has come inside and has increased your HVAC demand as well. So at the end of the day, increasing of the glass does not help us in our current climate zone. That's where the India is located. It's a cooling the main building requires cooling basically. So if we can tackle this basic design problem at the initial stage, our cost of the project will never increase. How it can reduce? The basic thing is our ancestral used to and our ancestral designers used to have this in their designing, proper orientation, proper shading design, but we have in the age of using Control C and Control V in our designing, in our philosophies, we have just aped what is there in West without thinking what will be the resultant irregularities in our building industry and our energy and water usage. So moving further, first you reduce your demand by proper designing of building, reduce your lighting demand, reduce your space conditioning demand. Then water demand which we have for our space conditioning and lighting, we try to use efficient fixtures. Now these fixtures, there are various ways of checking the efficiency of these. Whatever energy demand which we generate, reduce demand, we can generate it through renewable energies. Now what happens is you have reduced your all the demands. So the investment in renewable energy which you are proposing is already reduced and you have saved cost on your lighting and air conditioning systems. You have even reduced it up to 50%. That's a huge cost saving for these systems. Now this cost percentage can be used in renewable energy. So how does the cost increase? And that's what we are trying to explain to people that this is a misconception that green buildings cost high. It cannot. So we take another case of the other systems which we use, other resource which we use in building, that's water. Same ways, if we optimize our water demand by having, so in general, you use water in majorly building water consumption, irrigation systems, HVAC systems, and other miscellaneous usages. So if I can reduce my demand per se, then my investment in recycling and storing and reusing rainwater will obviously be less because my demand is less. So we have to change our thinking that if my supply is good, if my supply is sustainable, I'm sustainable. It is not possible. First, reduce your demand, whatever resource you are using. The third thing and the major issue which we are facing in across our all cities, especially in India, and the current government is especially putting a push to the sector is waste management. Now, anything which we use, whether it be building, whether it be construction materials, whether it be systems, we generate a lot of waste. Now, the waste which we generate, if it is properly managed, it is properly segregated, it can be reused as a resource. So we have an interesting meeting with one of our international clients, and in that meeting, we were discussing, okay, our government is doing lots of things on waste management, and lots of things. At the end, the clients asked, what is waste? We do not have waste in our country. I was like, sir, waste is basic waste which we generate. So what they came up is they do not have waste as a term. They have secondary resource. We have to come out of that basic thinking that waste is there. There is no waste. A waste for someone is a resource for other person. But this can only happen if segregation happens. Now, segregation is important at all levels. Right now, our government is focusing on basic levels of segregation because that basic level is also even missing in the current system. However, if you see the current waste which we generate, these are the major types of waste which we generate: organic, paper, plastic, glass, metal, waste, and waste. Now, Segregation has to happen at all levels. Otherwise, the effort is futile within the industry. What levels? Obviously, building level, site level, and then city level. If the segregation is not happening at the one level, it requires extra effort, it requires more investments, it requires more effort, and at the end of the day, it goes into a backfill. Now, the same waste, or if I say resource, secondary resource is segregated, can be utilized further. For example, organic waste can go into composted manure, and rest all can be recycled and reused. The only problem which waste threatens is the mixed waste, so that nobody can handle. So what green building or sustainable building actually focuses on right effort rather than extra effort. So for example, green building has all these scenarios: planning, water, social, pollution, energy, environment. There are set standards in our country. What people need to do is just start following them. As simple as that. So there's no extra effort. You already go for building approvals. You already go for environmental clearances. The only thing is implementation is a challenge when we talk about this as a holistic manner. For social, you have labor laws, you have transportation rules and regulations. So for this, the company which I represent, or the society which I represent, that's called the TERI Council. We come into picture. How we do is we bring everything together for any project to follow. And here, how you measure the greenness of any of the building. Now, what you have tool is called the TERI rating. Now, TERI rating is a basic tool to measure your greenness throughout the life cycle of a building, whether it be design stage, whether it be construction, or operation, or maintenance. The basic principle behind this rating is what gets measured gets managed. Now, when you talk about management, green building is all about management. Managing your resources, managing your energy, managing your water, managing your labor resource, and every manager knows that if you do not measure your consumptions, you cannot manage that resource. So what green building asks you to do is measure everything. Now to measure and basically evaluate what you have TERI is for. In generally, the building structure has buildings in the industry can be divided into two different categories. You have new buildings and existing buildings. Now the new buildings, what TERI has given you are four basic evaluation tools. The first one starts with SWOT-GREHA, that's simple, versatile, affordable GREHA. It evaluates any projects which is less than 2500 square meters. That's your residence or a small office. This tool actually is a design come rating tool. It's not just an evaluation tool, it also helps you designing. So an architect can use this tool. They can put in where they are designing their project, and that tool will suggest what are the green features which you can use to make your building aesthetically pleasing, meeting the points. The second rating is there with GREHA, that is green rating for integrated habitat assessment, with buildings which are more than 2500 square meters of built-up area. Now, this is the major chunk of buildings which are being constructed across our country, and the basic evaluation lies throughout the life cycle. Also, what happens is when we do commitments that I want to be sustainable, I want to live sustainable, I cannot say that I am sustainable today and I cannot be sustainable tomorrow. Sustainable is basically a lifestyle change throughout your life cycle. Same ways for buildings, it has to be green throughout the life cycle. Last in the scale is GREHA for large development. Now this scale is valid for around projects which are having site area more than 50 hectares. These huge projects actually require take time to develop, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years down the line. Now, will these projects be sustainable at that time? This tool helps you evaluate that at the design stage, at the initial stage itself. And recently, last year, there was an interesting tool which was launched for especially affordable housing. Now, this was, as we all know, our government is laying major emphasis on affordable housing across the country. So this tool was a request from Government of India to provide a tool to just evaluate affordable housing. Now, if you see the gamut of ratings which is available in new buildings, that's caters every size, every type, whatever you want to build. And you will be amazed to know that we have the first Dhaba to get a Swagriha rating. It's already in process. So any building we make requires to be sustainable. What you need a tool to measure its sustainability, and there where Griha helps you out in measuring this greenness. With regards to existing building, we have one tool which is called Griha EB, that is on the same scale as Griha. However, the other tool is very interesting, and this will be very hard to find in any other rating system across the world. Now, this is a Griha for day schools rating, which is basically keeping in mind that this rating will be taken by students and teachers of a school. Intellectual deeps like us are not required to go and evaluate a building, how energy efficient or water efficient it is. School students which are there using this school with their teachers will evaluate this. Now the intent of this rating is to put sustainability in their curriculum, in their understanding at that school levels. Because once we grow up, it's hard for us to grasp anything new or change our working style. So this rating actually helps them to integrate it in their school curriculum and make them understand what is true sustainability at that time. Griha takes care of throughout the basic variants. It has 9 sections. It has site planning, energy, comfort and well-being, water, building materials, construction management, solid waste management, socio-economic strategies, and performance and monitoring. So there's no aspect left in a building which can be evaluated. It takes care of everything. You cannot run away from sustainability in that case. Now, why Griha is important and how it has been accepted basically. It was formed in 2005 by TERI and it was released as TERI Griha in 2005. Now in 2007, our ministry, that's Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, adopted this rating as a national green building rating for our country. Now what happens after that is TERI being a consultant, MNRE being a ministry, cannot give you a rating, it's a conflict of interest. Hence, we as a third party was created, that's called TERI Council. Obviously, TERI and MNRE being a parental body, we report them for all our upcoming requirements and updates. Down the line, there were many national and international recognitions which we have got from UN, from our from US previous President Mr. Al Gore or UNEP. However, the most recent and the most interesting one happens in 2015, which is the COP15 agreement, Paris Agreement, which happened in 2015. Now, this agreement becomes very important, as Arun was also telling you in the initial brief, agreement where all the countries came together and said to the world that we have a commitment to this climate and we need to act to do this climate change which is happening, for this climate change which is happening. For this, our country have submitted, or all the countries, this is signed by around 192 countries across the world. This was the first time in the world that at least 192 countries agreed on something. And in this agreement, our country has submitted INDC, that's called Intended National Determined Contributions, which clearly speak what our country is doing to mitigate climate change in various industries. Say it be building, say it be agriculture, say it be industries. So in this INDCs, what our government said is that in the building industry, we have created this Griha tool, government has created this Griha tool, and we are implementing this tool to mitigate climate change in the building industry. So our 2030 goal of reduction of 2 degrees Celsius in the world climate, the tool which will measure the climate change or mitigation of climate change strategies is Griha in the building industry in our country. Now, government has come up with various incentives or various processes to make sure that green buildings are streamlined within the processes which we make. For this, there are many incentives offered by. So there are many incentives offered by states and municipalities across the country. Some states are Rajasthan, Punjab, Haryana, Uttarakhand, Jharkhand. Now, this is basically an extra FAR which is given for developers to adopt this green building with whatever issues which they face with the initial process changes. Same as interesting incentive is given by one of the most initial adopters of Griha, that's Pimpri-Chinchwad Municipal Corporation and Pune Municipal Corporation in Maharashtra. What they give is a dual benefit. They give a premium rebate to the developers and also property tax rebate to the buyers. So if I'm buying a green or a gray for MOEF CC, which they get if you go for environmental clearances for your project, you get a GRP certification and you can get a fast track clearances for this. Along with that, there are multiple government and other private stakeholder partnerships which are happening across the country. So the Amravati city, which is coming up, the capital city, has committed that the whole city will be under GREA, or new projects and the site will be under GREA. There's a directive from NBCC that all the projects which they will make would be under GREA. Same as all airports which are coming across the country. Your Port Blair Airport, you have Leh Airport, you have Allahabad. So that's around 58 airports across the country. They are going under GREA. So there is a varied adoption happening across the government sector and the private sectors. And the recent one with Maharashtra PWD, in which they have mandated that all PWD Maharashtra projects will be having a mandate to achieve minimum 3-star GREA rating. Some examples. Now, when we talk about coolness in the initial stages, so we talk about looking great and performing great. That's what we are looking for green buildings. Now, here's a building from Panchkula, Haryana. Now, when we see this building, we always have a view that, again, oh my God, this is a glass building. How does it work? It requires modes of energy. But you will be amazed to know that this building is actually a totally non-AC building. It runs on total passive architecture. Now, what they have tried to do is, if you see the plan, on the right side, you have the offices, which works on a basic principle of passive designing of hot air rises, that your cold air takes its place. It works as a normal passive design. The windows which you see east and west, you have lots of shading designing, and hence it performs very beautifully. The shading designing. Another example from Pune, that the PIC Circuit House, Pune. Now, when we see about green buildings, we always come up with the old CPWD buildings which were there as box buildings with normal windows. Now, the buildings can be designed keeping in both our ancestral knowledge and modern technologies. That's what we are looking as a green building systems in the country. It has very good ambience, it has very good comfort requirements, and a private developer as well. That's your device Vision Gurgaon, a high-rise residential project. So everything is possible. However, coming back to the last slide and summing up everything, can cool buildings be sustainable? That was our initial question. Cool buildings are there, but can it be sustainable? So what we want is one desirable aesthetics, endemic quality, usability. If we add up everything, the overarching concept is sustainability. If we add sustainability, cool buildings, sustainable buildings are actually possible. So I'll close that with the basic last slide of mine. Thank you for listening. And we'll be open for questions.
Thank you, Akash. Colleagues who were connected with us for the webinar, you can type your questions, queries, clarifications, comments in the dialog box available on the right-hand side bottom corner of your screen. The speakers will answer your questions by turn at the end of the presentation. I'm happy to introduce our second speaker today, Mr. Randall Newton. Randall Newton is the Vice President of Enterprise Engineering at Ingersoll Rand. In this role, Mr. Newton is responsible for leading the global refrigerant technology strategy for Ingersoll Rand, including the Trane and Thermo King brands. He also manages 4 Ingersoll Rand engineering and technology centers globally, including sales centers in Bangalore, Chennai, Shanghai, and Prague. Mr. Newton has more than 30 years of experience with increasing responsibility in the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning industry with Trane and Ingersoll Rand. Prior to this, Mr. Newton has held several positions as Vice President of Global Product Management for chillers and air handlers, Global Vice President Engineering for chillers and air handlers, and Vice President Operation for Trane chiller and air handler factories. Mr. Newton is a professional in mechanical engineering and also has MBA from the University of Wisconsin. He is a long time member of ASHRAE.
I now invite Mr. Randall Newton to, to, to share his perspectives. And Randy, may I request you to put your slide on the full screen mode, please. Mr. Randall Newton, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, first of all, thank you, and thanks to Mr. Akash Deep for his comments. I had some similar comments, but I'll try to skip over them in the interest of time. I want to start by first making a pitch, though, for sustainability. You know, too often skeptics argue about sustainability being an impediment to business or too expensive. I want to tell you that we've been at this for a long period of time, and it's not only having a sustainable environment in your business, it's not only good for the environment, but we found that it's also good for employees. We see better engagement, higher commitment to social responsibility, and a higher level of innovation because they work for a company that believes in sustainability, and it's also good for business. You know, we couldn't be where we are today without having this attitude. Before we start talking a lot about the techniques in green buildings, and Mr. Deep talked about this earlier, but I want to talk for a minute about why we air condition. We air condition for comfort, which includes heating, cooling, humidity control, carbon dioxide control, odor control, control of volatile organic compounds, fresh air changes, indoor air quality. We may also condition for productivity in the case of data centers. In the case of factories, it can help us with workforce productivity. It can also help us with manufacturing quality and yield. Or we air condition for health, healthcare centers for control of disease, for control of infection. If we don't care about these things, comfort or yield or health, we really don't need to condition the air. But before we start, air conditioning can't be an afterthought or an add-on to a building. It absolutely has to be integral to the design of the building. And I think that for a green building, air conditioning, you need three key requirements. And the first is this concept of systems design. As I said, it can't be an afterthought. Once we establish why we need to condition the air, we need to answer a lot of questions like, where is the building located? What climate? Is it in a city or a village? How is the air quality? What direction is it facing? How is the building constructed? Things like insulation, glass, windows. Does it have a green roof? What's the availability of water? What space do we have in and around the building? Availability of electricity and natural gas. Are there noise restrictions, either customer imposed or regulatory? What is the building use? Office space, residential, retail, school, hospital, data center? How is the building illuminated? How important is the end-of-life cost to the equipment owner? And importantly, how much can the equipment owner afford? Really understanding the customer needs is the first critical step in designing the cooling for a green building. And if you don't know what those needs are, I would contend that you can't make a good design. So once you have all of these inputs, the best way to do this is to put these inputs into sophisticated modeling software that will help us select the best system for this particular customer. We like to tell the customer that the meter is on the building, not on individual pieces of equipment. So just buying equipment that is cataloged as very efficient doesn't mean it will operate that way in the building. The system has to be configured to best meet the needs of the customers. This step in designing a building is the most critical in delivering highly efficient systems that will serve the customer, but it's also the most common shortcut that engineers and systems designers take. The result is often guessing, and it results in oversized, mismatched equipment that doesn't work seamlessly as a system. Almost all poor air conditioning systems miss this critical step. And I would contend that perhaps 10% of the energy consumed for air conditioning in buildings is wasted because we didn't take this first critical step. We selected the wrong system, we guessed at equipment sizes, we guessed at building loads, we assumed that catalog information was accurate. That's not always the case. The second critical step in a green building is control. Once I've configured the perfect system that has the ability to meet all of the needs, I have to control it really every minute of every day. If equipment controls are not designed to work in a system, then the system will not run optimally. It's not about running individual pieces of equipment. It's about how they run in concert. Every building needs a control system that ensures the system is operating properly. Equipment needs to be connected to maximize comfort and efficiency. And this requires a building automation system, but I'll tell you, they're not all created equally. We have automated the systems have advanced a long way since building control was simply a thermostat. What good automation systems can do today is pretty remarkable. They assure that the needs of every room are met for temperature, humidity, air quality, fresh air control at the highest possible system efficiency. They can now diagnose problems that are reducing efficiency, like clogged filters, scaled tubes, low refrigerant charges, equipment breakdowns before they become major concerns or before they consume a huge amount of energy. And they can tell you if the system is consuming more energy than expected for current ambient conditions and current expected building loads. And in that way, they can alert a facilities manager or a maintenance manager to where a problem might be before we consume a huge amount of energy. And then the third critical step is maintenance. Both predictive and reactive is required for effective operation of green buildings. Every system should run as efficiently on the day it's decommissioned as on the day it is commissioned. But very, very few do because we take this step too lightly. I would suggest, based on what we've seen in the field, that we waste 20% or 30% of the air conditioning energy used annually, at least in the US, because systems are not controlled and maintained properly. Designing a great system is not enough. We have to maintain the system to keep it running optimally. And then one more point on this particular element. Building use is not static. Building use, building loads, building needs change over time. If you're not going back to your models when needs change or when you replace a component of the system, then you're not maintaining a green building. So in cases where a building changes from an office space to residential space or changes from a hospital to residential space, we have to go in and reconfigure the system to make sure that it meets the needs of those particular customers and that it's running efficiently. I've also been asked to comment a little bit on some technical challenges with green buildings, and there are many. One of the ones that was mentioned at the top of the discussion was to talk about choosing the right refrigerants. Certainly, green buildings require the choice of the lowest possible global warming potential refrigerant that also provides very, very high energy efficiency. And I'm sharing this chart to talk a little bit about the comparisons between the various types of refrigerant that are in the industry today. You can see over on the upper left-hand side of the chart, we're looking at low pressure refrigerants. In this case, upper left-hand corner, it shows typical refrigerants, and you see them listed underneath R11, R123, et cetera. It shows the theoretical refrigerant efficiency, or the theoretical refrigerant COP. So all refrigerants are not created equally, and in the case of low pressure refrigerants, we have the advantage of having the highest possible equipment efficiency from those refrigerants. But there's a number of other problems. The first one here, R11, you can see has a global warming potential very, very high. Ultimately, we're looking for global warming potentials below about 100. So in the lower left-hand part of the chart, you can see what the GWP is, or GWP equivalent of these refrigerants is. The advantage on low pressure is that this discussion has really all but been settled from a technical standpoint. R1233ZD, R514A, provide energy efficiency that's very, very close to the best that we've ever seen, and at the same time have global warming potential that is very, very low, 1 to 1.75 times the potency of carbon dioxide. These are great refrigerants for use in large buildings. Typically, they're used in centrifugal compressor applications. Similarly, medium pressure refrigerants, and many are familiar with 134A, I think that we're on a good path for finding a long-term solution for medium pressure refrigerants. 134A has a global warming potential of about 1,300. As an interim solution, many suppliers of air conditioning equipment have introduced products with 513A. It has a very small efficiency hit compared to 134A, but it is near design compatible so that we can move to that refrigerant quickly. Unfortunately, even though it has a reduction in GWP of about 2/3 versus 134A, it's still not a good long-term refrigerant, so we consider it a transitional refrigerant in the industry at this point in time. There are 2 HFOs that we think are going to be potentially good long-term replacements. Probably the most promising is our 1234ZE. Our 1234ZE has a global warming potential of about 1, so it will be an ideal long-term refrigerant. The concern right now with application is that it is considered 2L flammable, though it is on the very, very low extreme of the flammability standpoint. And it does require some pretty significant design changes in this equipment to be able to manufacture equipment economically and sell it to customers at a fair price. The 2L flammability issue, because this is on such a low end of the scale, is not a huge concern on medium pressure refrigerants, primarily because most of these pieces of equipment, most of this equipment is chillers, and it's either situated outdoors where the flammability is not an issue, or in an equipment room where we have very, very good control of the equipment, and we don't have to worry about. We can take very active measures to make sure there aren't fires or any danger. The biggest challenge that we face right now is on high pressure refrigerants, and as some of you on the phone probably know, R410A is the most highly used refrigerant in the world, but it also has a very high global warming potential, almost 2,000 times as potent as CO2. It is also not a very efficient refrigerant compared to the medium and the low pressure refrigerants, but it's easy to apply and compact, and for that reason, a lot of people like this R410A refrigerant. There are a few what I would call transitional options for 410A, which do lower the global warming potential. And you see we have 3 of them listed here. Our 466A, which was just announced very recently by Honeywell. We're in technology development on that today. It's a non-flammable refrigerant and has a global warming potential about 40% that of 410A. So it's transitional because it won't meet our long-term needs for global warming potential. Similarly, our 452B, which is designed compatible with 410A, it's an almost exact drop into 410A, so it can be used very, very quickly in the industry on existing equipment if necessary. Also has about 40% of the global warming potential. Unfortunately, this refrigerant is what is considered 2L flammable as well. It has a higher burning velocity than 1234ZE. And so in the case of 410A, where oftentimes the refrigerant is in the occupied space, we have to be very, very careful about how we apply it and make sure that we have the proper safety measures in place. And then finally, R32, which is getting a lot of press, a little bit lower efficiency than 410A from a drop-in refrigerant standpoint, actually a higher burning velocity than 452B and a lower minimum ignition temperature. We're doing a lot of work right now to apply 2L refrigerants safely, both for safety from fire, but also safety for our technicians and also the building users. So we're making good progress on this front, but still a bit too early for us to claim victory on the medium pressure refrigerants. A lot of work continues to go on. Other technical challenges that we face, adaptability of modeling and building automation for legacy equipment, equipment supplied by others. And then finally, because all of these systems are now connected, we have connected buildings, we have concerns with cybersecurity, both with wireless sensors, but also with things that are directly connected to the cloud. So I'm going to close there. I know that we're very short of time at this point in time, and we'll entertain questions at the end.
Thank you, Randy. I'd like to welcome our third speaker, Dr. N. Muthukrishnan. Dr. N. Muthukrishnan is the head of the Environment Department at Delhi International Airport. He has over 12 years of experience in aviation environment management. He's a chemical engineer by profession and has done his doctorate from IIT Delhi. He's a member of the ACI Asia Pacific Environment Committee. He's also a certified ICAO trainer, plus course developer and ICAO safety management system professional. He's a lead auditor of environment management and occupational health and safety, and is also a certified dangerous good regulation professional. He has written various international publications and books on environment. He is leading projects of Delhi Airport on airport noise standards development, sustainability reporting, ACI carbon neutral programs, green building certifications, green company programs, ISO system implementation. He delivers lectures on aviation sustainability management to Indian Aviation Academy, Frankfurt University of Applied Sciences, and University of Petroleum and Energy Studies in Dehradun. Over to Dr. N. Muthukrishnan.
Hi, good evening. Good evening all. Thanks Arup and CAI team, TERI team to give us the opportunity to present our sustainability initiatives. So Delhi International Airport is a consortium which is formed by GMR Group, Airport Authority of India, and Fraport, which is operating Delhi International Airport since 2006. Earlier it was operated by Airport Authority of India, so everyone knows about it. Our major key activities are airport operation, like something like aero and non-aero development, commercial property development, infrastructure maintenance and utility. Mostly we focus on passenger growth as well as infrastructure demand according to our passenger growth. So this is our DIAL's mission statement. DIAL is nothing but Delhi International Airport Limited. Our mission statement is to be among us the world top 3 airport by providing superior customer experience through deployment of technology, innovation, while sustaining profitability with care for environment and being a great place to work. So we at Delhi Airport, we make sure that all our environmental and sustainability needs are taken care while in the planning as well as in the development of strategy. So this is our policy which has been signed by our CEO, and the right hand side of the presentation is all our sustainability pillars. So in our presentation we wish to highlight the 2 topics. One is on how green building is important to us as a aviation as per the airport demand, and the carbon neutral strategies which we have adopted so far. So our important program at Delhi International Airport is ensuring compliance and being a collaborative environment company with all our stakeholders, and develop a sustainable development infrastructure to ensure high efficient operation and having a good resource conservation program with the help of all the stakeholders and team members. So there we also foresee like the knowledge, skills and attitude, what is needed for being a green airport, we also import with all the members. So this is a story I just wanted to say about what Delhi Airport has done so far. We started our journey somewhere in 2006 when the airport was into the hand of Government of India, Airport Authority of India. From there we started our journey and we became a good recognized sustainable airport across globe. So green infrastructure is one of our prime initiatives and which we initiated through green building guidelines. So when we started our construction in 2006 with the capacity of 37 million passengers, the leadership of Delhi International Airport, Mr. IP Rao, who took a decision saying that every infrastructure at Delhi International Airport will have green building component with it. So we could able to take good amount of care in terms of energy efficiency infrastructures by adopting good amount of technology, high-end energy efficient electrical and mechanical unit, HVAC system, travelators and escalators, various components of electromechanical devices we have taken into consideration. Similarly, like water efficient and air conditioning, plumbing and irrigation systems also, we kept into a world-class infrastructure so that good amount of water is reserved, conserved and energy also being conserved during our day-to-day function. In addition to that, like pollution prevention is also a very important topic for us. So reduction in pollution prevention by means of conserving the unwanted consumption of fuels and effective waste management by means of site development and waste conservation programs are one of the key pillars in these initiatives. We also had good amount of eco-friendly vehicle initiatives with our stakeholders for our baggage handling system and baggage transport systems, which has helped us to become one of the first green building company in terms of the largest footprint area that I wanted to say that 5.5 lakh square meter of area which has been certified, and this is the one of the building globally has this much amount of green footprint. We do have rainwater harvesting structures and infrastructures, and almost when we operated it was around 61 liters per hour, liters per passenger in terms of water consumption, which we reduced to 27 liters per passenger. A good amount of conservation initiatives have been taken into consideration. Yes, as I said that one of the other important component is carbon neutral airport. So we also focused chlorofluorocarbon refrigeration, non-use of activity in terms of refrigeration activity. Currently we are using R314. Just I saw from that it is also a high global warming potential component, 1300 I have seen. So maybe in our next infrastructures we will try to see the best one which we can use it. During our journey, yes, we took good amount of care while developing our infrastructure. That's the reason we got LEED gold level infrastructure, green building infrastructure. But however, currently we are operating. This has been almost now 10 years we are operating these infrastructures. So recently we also improved our journey from new construction to green building of existing building in nature. So same has been awarded with a good amount of recognition from CII, that is the level of platinum. So currently we have both infrastructure oriented green approach as well as operations and management in terms of green focus. However, you all know that existing design does not guarantee the existing operation sustainable performance. So this is something unique which we did. These two leaders who drives this show across globe. I just wanted to introduce, this is Mr. IP Rao, he is our CEO, and the Ramanujam, he is the CEO of LEED, Magesh Ramanujam. So this is the first initiatives which they wanted to test it at airport. We have given them opportunity, and the same thing has been certified. And the only airport which has day-to-day performance analysis called ORC. So we have been certified into platinum level. So our objective is not only develop infrastructure which is of green in nature, also operate and maintain the performance into a level where the people recognize our concern. So we have been certified into platinum level, and still we are maintaining with that. Okay, what are green building objectives? Everyone knows that green makes business sense. That's the logic we follow. Yes, maximize economic and environmental performance of airport infrastructure by adopting sustainability concept. So while developing, it is the basic 6 principles we also followed. Ensure site development and management for sustainable airport function. Ensure the efficient management of material and resources to facilitate reduction of waste generated. Also, the indoor environment qualities for the comfort of occupants, and minimize the energy performance of the building to protect atmosphere and environment. Also, increase wastewater or water efficiency within the building and by its distribution systems, and adopt innovation in design and operation of airport functions. So these are the 6 important elements which we took from the green building guidelines, whether it is from LEED or whether it is from CIA Green Building Council guidelines or GRIA guidelines. The concepts are more or less same. So the factor is site should support the growth of industry, and it should not have any bad impact to the people who operate here or customer who flows through our airport or the people around us as a social impact. It should not cause any major issue. And in addition to that, we also drive the conservation program. This is all our important green building objectives for our airport. And in addition to that, what we did was whatever we had an experience with respect to LEED implementation, we converted that as a standardized training package. The same thing has been published with International Civil Aviation Organization with the 5 days course module. We have successfully completed 2 batches, almost now 3 batches of this course with various international participants. So all this course within 5 days we complete almost 5 modules which totally integrate with airport requirement in terms of how to integrate the LEED concept for design as well as operation of airport infrastructures. So this is all about green infrastructures. We spoke about it. Now let us come to the topic called carbon neutral progress. So as an aviation, we are more responsible for our climate change. What's happening today in terms of the weather change or climate pattern or expectation of reaching temperature very quickly by 2020 and its consequence in terms of global impact or expected impact in India. Like recently we have seen in paper that India will have a unpredicted heat wave, and which may have a very major impact into the entire Indian areas. So that is also we have seen. But as an airport, what we can do best, that is what we are doing. So at Delhi airport and more or less other airports in India also following our footprint. So with respect to airport, when we see our IPCC report, airport contributes to 2% of global emission, and out of which 13% in terms of transport emission. So that's what the statistics says. However, it is projected that the 2% may go up to become 3% with the improvement in terms of air navigation systems, the improvement in terms of green infrastructure, improvement with respect to fleets, so and so. So we can able to contain. That is what we are doing at present. The global demand for air travel is estimated to increase significantly in future. It is likely to accompanied by increasing aviation related environmental footprints that everyone knows. But however, what we at aviation do, that's what we wanted to highlight you. The government in India, called the Ministry of Civil Aviation, has published the policy called the National Civil Aviation Policy, and which indicates the sustainable growth of aviation needs, as well as the DGCA, which is called the Director General Civil Aviation in India. They also laid out civil aviation requirements specific to climate change. So various momentum has been geared up, and people are working out, and many measures have been taken into consideration. So this is a slide just I wanted to highlight you. The first airport, the carbon neutral airport in Asia Pacific, it's Delhi Airport. I thank the leadership of Delhi Airport as well as the GMR Group. It is a good example that made a kind of momentum across Asia Pacific region. So after Delhi Airport become accredited into carbon neutral, which has a 4 level, which has been governed by Airport Council International, which is the global body for aviation industry. The airports of our sister concerns, airports of other airports in India like Hyderabad, Bangalore and Bombay become the carbon neutral airports. So we are trying to set the trend where for the good cause of industry and take a lead in our area where this social impact can be maintained. So currently now, more than carbon neutral, our focus is also now coming up with the title called zero emission airport. We all know that zero emission is not possible, but however our management said that try to minimize as low as possible the emission sources from airport. So this is what we are now focusing on. So how are we going to do it? That's a component which I listed below, like energy conservation, energy efficiency measures, renewable energy measures, operational excellence measures, and fuel switch and increased sync. So mostly, if you see our aviation industry, the emission contribution is mainly because of aircraft's operation or maybe energy demand for the infrastructures in terms of the lighting or mechanical electrical devices or maybe HVAC component. Almost 70% of our emission totally belongs to the scope 3, which we call it as the others emission. So in this case, it's 85%. And scope 2, which is of electricity emission, which contributes almost 15%. Whereas the scope 1, which is of our day-to-day vehicles, by petrols or diesel, fire drills and extinguishers. So that comes to become a less than 1%. This is our statistic. But we have taken up a kind of a target. By 2019, we will implement our zero emission airport role model, and it will be published very soon. So what are the various initiatives we have taken? One is energy conservation. It's a very important element for us because everything what we pay, we spend, and it also contributes to good amount of emission in terms of GHG, because most of our energies are from the thermal background. So we get a great emission factor is almost 0.8 or 0.82 megawatt, means tons of CO2 per megawatt. So with that focus, we also add a good amount of energy conservation plans. This has been certified. Again, Delhi Airport is the first airport to get ISO 50001 certified. Also, various energy efficiency measures of the components in terms of lighting, baggage handling units, heating and ventilation units, we have been taking care, and that gives good amount of energy reduction for us. This is something unique. We also took good amount of care while developing our infrastructure, which has resulted into a CDM project. So almost 16,000 tons of CO2 per annum we are now saving because of our green infrastructure component. And this is unique, and no other airport has this credential globally. So our solar infrastructures is something unique. All our infrastructures are around our airport operational area, and this is the first airport which has this infrastructure in India. And we initially started with the 2.14. Now currently we have around 7.84 solar photovoltaic, and in addition to that, we have now 5 megawatt hydro connection with us. So overall, we have around 12.84 megawatt renewable contribution, which is of almost 25%. So more and more we are exploring the various renewable opportunities. I just give it to Rakib. Please.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Muthukrishnan. So continuing, we also have our stakeholder engagement program. So when we talk about airport, it's not only DIAL, Delhi International Airport Limited, it's a airport community that we consider. So we also work closely with our stakeholders, and we share whatever learnings we get from implementing different projects. So we shared our renewable energy experience with our stakeholders, and as a result, Celebi, which is one of the cargo terminal operator in Delhi airport, they have also come up with their own solar power plant of 2 megawatt. It's a rooftop power plant. So considering this and the existing 12.84 megawatt of renewable energy from DIAL side, so we have around almost 15 megawatt of capacity, renewable energy capacity in IGIA. And following the footsteps of Celebi, the other cargo terminal operator, who is DCSC, Delhi Cargo Services Limited, they are also in the planning stage of implementing another 2 megawatt rooftop solar power plant within the IGI airport. So all these initiatives are giving us a lot of improvement in terms of renewable energy development as well as reduction of GHG emission. So next point on which we are working as a part of zero emission airport is operational improvement, because majority of our as Dr. Muthukrishnan has already mentioned, majority of our emission comes from aircrafts. So we are trying and continuously working how to reduce emission, how we can improve our operational efficiency, and at the same time through operational efficiency how we can reduce our emissions. So we have implemented this very unique operational measure, which is called airport collaborative decision making. So this is basically a IT tool which was developed in-house by DIAL team, and it enables better planning and execution of different tasks related to airport operation. So as a result of this implementation of this initiative, we have reduced delays and queuing time of aircraft. So it also reduces a lot of unnecessary fuel burning. So this is one case study which was carried out by Airport Authority of India. So they assumed 950 movements a day in Delhi airport, and estimated that we are saving around 34.5 million kgs of CO2 per year by reducing 1 minute of taxi time. And currently we are operating at 1300 movement per day. So you can estimate the number has gone significantly high. The reduction of CO2 emission has gone up significantly. And similarly, we also share our learnings with our industry associates. So we are a founding member of India GHG program. As a part of this India GHG program, we have developed aviation best practices and climate change and emission reduction roadmap and guidelines, and it was published in the year 2015. Coming back to our GHG management framework, as it was already mentioned that we are participating in ACI's airport carbon accreditation program. So this is the only global airport recognition program when it comes to GHG emission and GHG management. They have different levels. Over the years, we have achieved higher and higher levels, and in the year 2016, we achieved level 3+ after fulfilling all the requirements of level 3+. And on the right hand side, the journey of our GHG emission. So it has, when we started in 2010-11, it was around 4.76 kg CO2 per pax, and currently we are in the range of 1.84 CO2 kg CO2 per pax. And in the coming year, we have set a target to reduce 1.82 kg CO2 per pax.
Okay. So thanks, Rakib. This is all what we do at Delhi Airport. Some of the few examples we have given, especially for green infrastructure. And research was recently published yesterday. It was 2019. So that's also another initiative which we are now focusing on. So anybody goes through Delhi Airport, maybe by after 2019. You may see the single-use plastic-free environment at airports. So this is also another path-breaking initiative which you are now which we are now driving on it. So this is all about my presentations. If any questions are there, we can easily answer to you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Arup, and thank you, TERI team, and the other audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Muthu. Thank you, Randy, Muthu, and Akash. I'm sure for all the participants who have joined us for this webinar, this has been insightful as well as pragmatic for you. We clearly see from the presentations the business case for green buildings, and in fact the emerging opportunities of using low-GWP refrigerants and how it aligns with India's actions and commitments under the Kigali Agreement and the Paris Agreement. We have several questions that have come in from the participants. Which I know we are we have overrun the scheduled time, but we'll quickly pick up some of the questions for the speakers. And each one and each speaker will address these questions. Colleagues who have joined this webinar, in case you have still not sent us your question, you type in the chat box on the right hand side corner of your screen. A question. A question that has come for directed to Akash. The question says, how can all buildings, become green buildings in India? And the second part of the question says, where can I find more practical case studies and experiences of implementing green buildings in India? Akash, please.
So, thanks for the question, Alok. For replying to the first question, yes, green buildings, to implement green buildings in India, we have to start changing our mindset, thinking way, and we have to think differently that green buildings are not anything rocket science which we are asking people to do. It's exactly the same building, but which is much more efficient, but it gives you more comfort, and it is much more less costly than any of the previous buildings which you make. Now, to initiate and to implement this in our country, government is trying to make it as much as mandated as much as possible. So there are various mandates and incentives as shown in my slide for both government as well as private stakeholders. As we said, that central government has a mandate that all buildings have to have a minimum 3-star rating. Same way, there are many memorandums which have been issued by Defense Ministry, by Petroleum Ministry, by even Airport Authority, that all airports will be GRIHA compliant, will be 3-star GRIHA compliant. With regards to the state adoption of building becomes a state subject in India. So buildings, when you talk about the state overview, there are many bylaws revisions happening across the country in which green buildings and GRIHA is being mandated within these bylaws itself for providing incentives for people for them to adopt. In the private sector, there are various incentives given by the central by the state government in the form of extra FAR, incentives for property tax and extras. So this basically helps us implement GRIHA, but there's a long way to still go in our country because people need to change their understanding of what green buildings actually are and come out of the commercial angle of green buildings and actually use technical requirements of green buildings into implementation. With regards to the second question, which you have asked about, the experience of various stakeholders of implementing GRIHA and green buildings in India. Now, GRIHA website has most of the information available for people. The website being www.grihaindia.org. That's GRIHAINDIA.org. It has all the projects which are going for this rating, all the projects which have rated so far, what are the various strategies they have implemented, how these strategies have resulted into final savings. Also, these numbers are there. Finally, after auditing, what is their performance? So the GRIHA website gives you most of the information. Where still such information is required, you can very well get back to us through our connection email IDs provided on the website. Thank you.
Thank you, Akash. A second question that is coming targeted to Randy. Randy, the participant asks, are ACs R32 safe enough for commercial applications, and replacement of R22 in existing systems? How is it possible? Are there any specifications that one needs to abide to? Randy.
Sure. The first part of the question was with regard to R32, and I would suggest that all of the flammable refrigerants, the 2L flammable refrigerants that we discussed, R32, R452B, there are some others, R454A. I believe that they can be safely applied, but groups like ISO and ASHRAE are working on processes for safe application of those refrigerants today to make sure that the amount of refrigerant that can be released into an occupied space doesn't get to a level where it could be flammable. So these refrigerants will be able to be used safely. We don't have all of the processes and procedures in place yet. And I think there are two parts to this. One is these refrigerants are particularly concerning with regard to service technicians because of the opportunity to get a flammable mix of refrigerant inside the equipment while I'm servicing it. We're working on processes to assure that we'll be safe in those circumstances. And then we're also working on how can these be applied so that and the charge levels limited so that we never get to a point where we reach the lower flammability limit in rooms. So my suggestion would be, if it's a very low charge unit, they're legal, they're safe to apply today. For other units, we should wait for IEC 2-40. We should wait for UL 2-40 to be completed to make sure that we can apply them safely. The other question was with regard to R22, and R22 is also a difficult challenge similar to 410A. Certainly we can move to refrigerants like 407C, which would be a near drop-in replacement for R22, would give you similar capacity and similar efficiency. The problem is that 407C is also a very high global warming potential refrigerant. So while we get rid of the ozone depletion issue, we still have an issue with global warming potential. Some of the refrigerant manufacturers are working on alternatives today that could produce refrigerants that are lower global warming potential. But in any case, these refrigerants would just be an interim type solution, probably have a GWP of around 1,000, which ultimately doesn't get us to our long-term goal. But we can make suggestions. Any of the equipment manufacturers can make or servicers can make suggestions on retrofittable refrigerants for existing equipment from a safety standpoint and also from a standpoint of improving the environmental impact.
Thank you, Randy. The next question that is coming is directed to Dr. Muthu Krishnan. Muthu, the question is that you have talked about Delhi International Airport's plans for transitioning from being a first carbon neutral airport to a zero emission airport by 2019.
how easy or difficult has the journey been so far for Delhi International Airport?
Okay, Dr. Muthukrishnan, he had to leave. He had some other meetings to attend, so he is apologized. So I'll be taking his question. I'm Rakib in his absence. So we initiated our carbon neutral journey in the year 2016 somewhere. So in the carbon neutral journey, it was more related to whatever emission we are responsible for as a Delhi airport. If we speak in terms of scopes, scope 1 and scope 2 basically. So scope 1 is more or less all our fuel related emission and DG related, vehicle related and DG related emissions. And scope 2 is basically our electricity related emissions. So we have converted some of our vehicles from diesel and petrol vehicles into CNG vehicles. So we have saved some amount of GHG emission. And in terms of electricity usage, we have shifted to, and we have diversified our mix from grid electricity to renewable energy. And so by this process, somehow we have reduced our overall footprint. So, but when we talk about from being carbon neutral to zero emission airport, because carbon neutral, you still have the opportunity of using offset. That is basically purchasing of carbon credits, and then you can claim to be a carbon neutral airport. But when it comes to zero emission airport, basically we are not looking at offsetting through carbon credits. So we are basically trying to develop a roadmap and implement it. How we can reduce all our emissions related to vehicles by adoption by phase-wise, eliminating conventional fuel-driven vehicles by electric vehicles, as well as also we are trying to explore how we can use more and more off-site renewable energy into our grid, and then into our uses, more and more renewable energy, offset renewable energy uses in our energy mix. And then we are also when we talk about zero emission airport, so this is one addition to carbon neutral airport, that we are now also looking at how we can reduce the emission of our stakeholders. Like we have number of stakeholders, airport airlines operating in airport, they have number of vehicles, and then they have buses, and they also consume electricity. So we are trying to see, and we are trying to work with all our stakeholders and see how we can reduce their emissions as well. Of course, we will have difficulties while implementing, because some of the initiatives might include capital investment, but then as we believe that green makes business sense, so initially maybe the capital investment may be high, but then it comes all technology, green technology that we implement, it comes with a payback. So hopefully we will be able to convince all our stakeholders, and we are already convinced when it comes to DIAL. So hopefully we will be able to implement the zero emission roadmap that we have planned, hopefully all across IGI airport.
Thank you, Ricky. One question that is coming targeted to Randy and Akash. If I may ask Randy to respond first, followed by Akash. The question says, by using low-GWP refrigerants, what credits or benefits do I get from green building certification processes? How are building energy efficiency and use of low-GWP refrigerants related? Randy.
Okay, I cannot answer the question on credits. I'm not an expert in that area, and so I'm not comfortable with that. But certainly, low GWP refrigerants and energy efficiency, I can answer that question. There are many fluids available that could be used as refrigerants, but theoretical energy efficiency of those fluids is important. So, for example, CO2 has been proposed in a lot of cases, but unfortunately, it's transcritical when condensing temperatures are above, maybe 25 degrees. And so it's very inefficient. We have to find solutions that provide as good or better energy efficiency than the equipment that we have in the marketplace today with these lower GWP refrigerants. And that's been one of the big focuses Of course, safety is also a consideration, and always has to be. But one of our primary considerations is that we will not release products that are not as energy efficient as current products or more energy efficient as we apply these new refrigerants. They're not exclusive, of course. You saw in my chart that most of the new refrigerants that we're working with today have comparable energy efficiencies to those that they're replacing. We're very confident that we'll be able to get there with the new refrigerants with at least as good of an efficiency, if not better energy efficiency.
Okay, thanks, Arup, again for the question. With regards to the credits which can be awarded, which is there with the GREHA for certification process for CFC, HCFC free refrigerants and other materials which we use. Interestingly, GREHA has 3 types of criteria, so mandate, optional, and non-applicable. In GREHA, using low-GWP emission refrigerants is a mandate. So there's no direct credit. It is a mandate. Without doing that, it doesn't get a rating. It cannot be simpler than that. Thanks.
Thank you, Akash. Colleagues, we have seriously ran out of time, and we have overshooted this by over 40 minutes. 40 minutes now. We are unable to take. We are running out of time, and we are unable to take any more questions. The questions that we have received from the participants will figure out a manner in which the presenters would respond to your queries. On behalf of all our council members, I'd like to thank Mr. Randall Victor, Dr. M. Muthukrishnan, Rahib, and Mr. Akash Deep. Thank you all participants for such an engaging discussions today. We sincerely regret that we could not take any more questions from the participants that came to us at a later stage. The recording of this webinar, as well as the earlier webinars, are now available on our TERI CBS website. You can download the recordings and the presentations that speakers have used. The web link is on your screen. Before we part ways, I'd like to request to draw your attention to some of the upcoming engagements of our council. On 20th of August, Chief Sustainability Officers from our council members and the companies in our network participated in a day-long deliberations. We are indeed thankful to all the participating sustainability officers who have provided us with inputs for shaping the council's future agenda and action plan. Please visit the web link on your screen to access the summary of the meeting and copies of the presentation. The 8th, you can access the first knowledge report for this financial year from our council. On the web link given on the screen. This is a web link this is a publication on Sustainability Super Trends 2018. The report bears a message of Mr. R. Mukundan, Managing Director of Tata Chemicals Limited and co-chair of our Business Council, and Mr. Ajay Shankar, former Secretary, Department of Industrial Promotion and Policy, Government of India, and Distinguished Fellow in TERI. A to Z of sustainability is one of our endeavors to provide you a repository of words, phrases, and terminologies from a range of environmental, social, governance, and economic topics that are useful and contemporary for sustainability professionals. Please follow the web link on your screen to access a copy of this repository of terms and jargons used in the sustainability space. We invite you to join us for interesting and engaging discussions on business solutions for sustainability challenges at the online community of the Indo-Dutch Sustainability Forum. Indus is a one-stop shop for Dutch and Indian businesses looking to turn sustainability challenges into business opportunities. Some of the sustainability challenges already being discussed at the forum includes the business case for paddy straw, circularity in the textile sector, bio-based packaging solutions,
decision support systems for smart cities, and financing clean urban transportation. Please look forward to our communication on the same. You will see the web link for the Indus Forum on your screen. You could write to my colleague, Mr. Aditya Singh, requesting for additional details and to get yourself registered in the forum. Through our partnership with SDG Exchange, we aim to equip organizations with a process that provides guidance and support on how to change from an inside out to an outside in perspective and how to embrace true business sustainability into their core business strategies. SDG Exchange assists companies in creating outside in business opportunities through positive contributions to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Currently, the methodology is being pilot tested with Dalmia Cement and Tata Chemicals. On 25th to 26th of October, we are organizing a conference for the right to fair compensation and transparency in Land Acquisition, Rehabilitation and Resettlement Act 2013. We are expecting several parliamentarians, ministries, Revenue Department of state governments, state social impact assessment units to join us. Please contact our colleagues to book your seat at the conference. The details are available on your screen. The first meeting of our Directors Forum on Sustainability is scheduled on 16th November 2018 in New Delhi. We shall soon reach out to all our member companies for nominations from their respective organizations. The 8th Thought Leadership webinar of our council will be with our partners Frost & Sullivan about the Sustainability 4.0 Awards 2019 edition. Through our partnership, we aspire to have large number of companies in the country moving to structured sustainability programs and assist organizations unearth the risks, leverage the opportunities, and enable them to benchmark their performance and to reward their accomplishments. Please watch out for our second newsletter for this financial year later this week, A World Abuzz with Sustainability. The newsletter captures the highlights of the work of several of our member companies and companies in our council's network. The newsletter also features a blog titled Tomorrow Unlike Yesterday, Transitions in the Energy Sector in India. We look forward to your comments and reactions. Our Council for Business Sustainability serves as the interface for our research work to be connected to the corporate world and enables a two-way communication and engagement. TERI CBS engages with the core issue of what businesses must do to shape and lead in sustainability. For regular updates, annual plans of engagement with our member companies during this financial year, please visit our website or write to us. The email IDs and website address are on your screen. Thank you for your presence with us today. We hope you enjoyed the session like ourselves hosting you, and we intend to bring similar engaging sessions to you. I'm signing off and look forward to your participation in our upcoming engagements. Thank you and bye-bye.